Welcome to Africadeo, the educational platform dedicated to the full history of Africa. Here, every story reveals a truth, every image revives a memory, and every episode takes you deep into the civilizations that shaped humanity. Get ready to discover Africa like never before. Feel free to like the video, and if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos.
The history of the Maroons, runaway slaves who built their own kingdoms. Born free in a world of chains, a chained world. The modern world was built on invisible roots of sugar, gold, cotton, and human lives. For more than 3 centuries, millions of men, women, and children were torn from Africa, forced across the ocean, and reduced to commodities. They were recorded, sold, transported, and exploited. Their names erased, their histories fragmented. Yet wherever slavery was imposed, another history emerged. A hidden history, a history of flight, resistance, and rebirth. This is the history of the Maroons. The term refers to enslaved people who escaped from colonial plantations, but it means far more than flight alone. It represents a radical transformation, human beings stripped of freedom becoming founders of free societies. Escape or disappearance, the plantation is a closed world, a world ruled by fear, violence, and constant surveillance. Escape is never impulsive. It is a decision heavy with consequences. To flee means facing hunger, illness, trackers, hunting dogs, and slow death in the wilderness. And yet, night after night, some choose to leave. They flee alone or in small groups. They carry little, sometimes a tool, sometimes a blade, often nothing but memory. They know there is no return. Colonial authorities call them Maroons, a word rooted in ideas of wildness and fugitivity. But this label fails to capture their true purpose. They do not flee merely to survive. They flee to live differently. The forest as refuge, the forest becomes their ally. Dense, hostile, unpredictable, it is nearly impenetrable to colonial armies. But for the fugitives, it becomes a teacher. They learn to read rivers, recognize edible plants, move without leaving traces. They adapt African knowledge to unfamiliar landscapes. In mountains, swamps, jungles, and highlands, communities begin to form. Discreet, mobile, resilient. These refugees are not chosen at random. They offer strategic advantages, visibility over surrounding areas, access to water, multiple escape routes. Gradually, hideouts become villages. Villages become territories, reinventing society. The Maroons do not recreate the plantation in reverse. They create something new. Their societies rest on simple principles: individual freedom, collective solidarity, preservation of memory. Elders play a central role. Leaders are not tyrants, but guardians of balance. Decisions are often made collectively. African languages blend with European tongues. Rhythms, songs, and rituals are reborn in new forms. Spiritual worlds cross the ocean within human memory. Each community develops its own identity, shaped by environment and experience. Living under constant threat, Maroon freedom unsettles colonial systems. Their existence is a direct challenge to slavery. It proves that another way of life is possible. It inspires those still enslaved. Colonial authorities organize punitive expeditions. Soldiers, militias, and trackers are sent to destroy Maroon settlements. But the Maroons know the land. They master guerrilla warfare. They strike quickly and disappear. This prolonged resistance sometimes forces colonial powers to negotiate, from fugitives to recognized powers. In several regions of the Americas, Maroons cease to be hidden communities. They become political forces. Some secure treaties recognizing their freedom and territorial autonomy. Others maintain independence through armed defense. They protect borders. They enforce laws. They defend sovereignty. Born from flight, these societies become kingdoms without crowns, states without palaces, nations forged through survival. A universal story. The history of the Maroons is not only the history of enslaved Africans and their descendants. It is a human story. It speaks of humanity's capacity to rebuild meaning under extreme conditions, to recreate society from almost nothing, to refuse dehumanization. Wherever oppression has existed, resistance has taken many forms. The Maroons represent one of its most enduring expressions. In the next part, we will explore the great Maroon strongholds across the Americas, their territories, their wars, and their strategies of survival. 2. From refuge to invisible kingdoms, when escape becomes foundation. Over time, escape ceases to be an isolated act. It becomes a movement. Across several regions of the Americas, Maroon communities take root. They no longer wander endlessly. They build, they cultivate, they defend. What begins as survival turns into a social project. What was once a hiding place becomes a homeland. These territories appear on no official maps, yet they exist, organized, powerful, and resilient, deep within colonial empires. Jamaica, the mountainous fortress. On the island of Jamaica, the rugged interior mountains provide natural protection. Here, Maroon communities develop highly effective military organization. They master the terrain. They transform ravines, forests, and peaks into natural defenses. Their warfare relies on speed and surprise. They strike suddenly, disrupt colonial forces, then vanish into the landscape. Colonial authorities fail repeatedly to defeat them. Eventually, they are forced to negotiate. Treaties are signed. These agreements recognize Maroon autonomy and land rights in exchange for peace. For the first time in colonial history, formerly enslaved people impose their freedom as recognized peoples. Suriname, the endless forest. Further south in South America, the Amazonian rainforest becomes the stage of another struggle. In Suriname, Maroons retreat deep into dense jungle, crossed by vast rivers. Here, nature itself blocks colonial armies. Communities organize along waterways. Each river becomes a lifeline for transport, trade, communication, and defense. Surinamese Maroon societies develop complex political systems, spiritual traditions, and legal structures. They wage long wars against colonial forces. After decades of conflict, peace treaties are signed. These agreements formally recognize Maroon freedom and territorial sovereignty. These communities still exist today, living legacies of that resistance. Brazil, the Kingdom of Palmares. In Brazil, Maroon history reaches extraordinary scale. In the northeast, a vast Maroon confederation emerges. Palmares. It is no longer a village, but a network of fortified towns sheltering tens of thousands of inhabitants. Palmares has leaders, laws, agriculture, and an army. It welcomes not only escaped slaves, but indigenous peoples and marginalized free populations. For nearly a century, Palmares resists repeated military campaigns. It becomes a symbol of freedom and defiance. Its eventual destruction is violent and devastating. Yet its existence proves that a free state, founded by former slaves, truly flourished within the colonial world. The Caribbean and Central America. Across the Caribbean, Maroon communities arise wherever slavery exists. In Cuba, Haiti, Dominica, St. Vincent, and beyond, groups form in remote areas. Some survive briefly, others endure for generations. In Central America, along coasts and mountain ranges, Maroon societies develop distinctive cultures blending African heritage, local influences, and adaptation. Despite their diversity, these communities share a core principle. They reject imposed domination, a silent war. Relations between Maroons and colonial authorities are defined by constant, often invisible warfare, not always through open battles, but through raids, sabotage, and the liberation of enslaved people. Every plantation attacked sends a message. Every successful escape weakens the slave system. Maroons become feared figures. They embody living proof that colonial order is not absolute, freedom as inheritance. Contrary to common belief, Maroons are not entirely isolated. They sometimes trade with towns, they exchange agricultural products, they share information, but above all, they transmit an idea. Freedom can be defended, preserved, and passed on. Their children are born free. They grow up in societies built by choice, not coercion. In the next part, we will enter the heart of Maroon culture, their languages, their spiritual worlds, and their systems of transmission. Living memory, culture, spirituality, and transmission, preserving the invisible. When Maroon societies are formed, they carry very little material wealth, but they carry what matters most. Songs learned in childhood, rhythms remembered in the body, stories whispered at night on plantations. Culture becomes a silent form of resistance. It allows humanity to survive where humanity was denied. Among the Maroons, memory is not written, it is lived. It moves through voices, gestures, and rituals, languages of freedom. New languages soon emerge. They are born from the meeting of multiple African languages, European tongues, and sometimes indigenous speech. These Creole languages become tools of unity. To speak the Maroon language is to belong. It marks a boundary between freedom and domination. Every word carries traces of a shared journey. Every expression reflects adaptation and survival. Language becomes both shield and bridge, protecting identity while enabling communication. Music is memory. Music holds a central place in Maroon life. Drums accompany ceremonies, celebrations, and mourning. They communicate across distances. They call ancestors into the present. African rhythms transform without disappearing. They adapt to new materials and landscapes. Dance completes the rhythm. It tells stories of escape, struggle, and renewal. Each movement carries meaning, each step preserves history. Spirituality, a bridge between worlds. Maroon spirituality is a bridge between Africa and the Americas, between ancestors and the living, between the visible and the unseen. African belief systems are not abandoned. They are reshaped, reinterpreted, sometimes blended with other traditions. Spirits, natural forces, and ancestors remain central. They protect, they guide, they warn. Rituals structure collective life. They reinforce unity. They give meaning to hardship. The role of elders. Elders are the guardians of memory. They remember the escape routes, the wars, the alliances. They know the founding stories. Their words carry authority. They guide collective decisions. Transmission is protection. Each generation receives history as responsibility. Education without schools. Learning does not take place in classrooms. It unfolds through daily life. Children observe. They follow adults into fields, forests, and ceremonies. They learn rules, values, and responsibilities, solidarity, courage, respect. Above all, they learn one essential truth. Freedom is never guaranteed. It must be defended and transmitted. Women, the invisible pillars. Women play a fundamental role in Maroon societies. They transmit culture, they heal, they educate. They often preserve medicinal knowledge, plants, and remedies. Their contribution is central, even when understated. Without them, survival would not have been possible, a culture in motion. Maroon culture is not frozen in time. It evolves. It absorbs new elements without losing its core. This adaptability is one of its greatest strengths. It allows communities to endure across centuries. In the final part, we will explore how Maroon societies confront modernity, how they survive beyond the abolition of slavery, and what legacy they leave in today's world. 4. The legacy of the free surviving time. After abolition, a new world. As slavery is gradually abolished across the Americas, the world changes. But for the Maroons, freedom is not a discovery. They do not receive freedom. They already live it. They have defended it, shaped it, and passed it on. Abolition does not mark a beginning. It marks a transition from secrecy to visibility, from hidden survival to open existence, and with visibility come new challenges. The end of isolation. For generations, isolation had been protection. Distance guaranteed safety. Remoteness preserved autonomy. With the end of slavery, isolation becomes harder to maintain. Roads open, borders shift. Modern states expand their authority. Maroon communities face new choices: to open, to negotiate, or to resist once more, adapting without disappearing. Some Maroon societies integrate partially into emerging nations. They retain land, customs, and internal governance. Others face pressure. Territories shrink. Ways of life are challenged. Yet everywhere, Maroons display remarkable adaptability. They adjust agriculture. They embrace new forms of education. They engage with the outside world without surrendering identity. Adaptation becomes survival, memory against forgetting. As time passes, official histories often overlook the Maroons. Their kingdoms fade from textbooks. Their names disappear from national narratives. But Maroon memory endures. It lives in songs, in ceremonies, in stories shared within families. Transmission becomes intentional. Telling history is no longer automatic. It becomes an act of preservation. The Maroons today. Today, Maroon communities still exist. They inhabit villages, some remote, some near cities. They participate in contemporary life while maintaining traditions. Their languages are spoken, their rituals practiced, their history continues. They are not relics of the past. They are living societies, a universal lesson. The story of the Maroons extends beyond geography, beyond centuries. It raises a fundamental question: what does it mean to be free? The Maroons answer through action. Freedom is not granted. It is built. It is defended. It is transmitted. They demonstrate that societies can be born from adversity, organized without domination, and endure without erasing origins. Kingdoms without monuments. Maroon kingdoms left no towering palaces, no carved stone laws. Yet they left something greater: human societies founded on dignity. Their legacy is not material, it is human. It lives wherever solidarity replaces oppression, where dignity resists erasure, freedom as inheritance. The Maroons are not merely runaway slaves. They are founders, founders of villages, founders of cultures, founders of alternative ways of being. Their history reminds us that even within the harshest systems, the human spirit can create paths to freedom, quiet paths, brave paths, enduring paths. And as long as this story is told, the kingdoms of the Maroons will continue to exist.
Give us your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and activate the notification bell so you don't miss any of our upcoming content. See you soon for another extraordinary episode.